you. Every route you run, we're gonna beat you. Best of luck if you wanna go deep. Sherman and Brown and pick you up in the sleep. And if you wanna test your luck with Cam or Earl, forget man to man, we make you look like girls. Bring in receivers, big or small. Line them up, boys, we'll take them all. Legion of Legion of 1, 2, 3, 4 wide.
What's up, everybody? Once again, Legion of Boom by my old friend Stephen Douglas. Checked in the comments yesterday. Miss you, buddy. Tonight on this live edition of Seahawks Forever, going to check in on day 2 of open OTA practice. The media was on hand. What are they saying about what they're seeing the first couple of days with the Seahawks? What are some of the players saying after these first couple of days? And then we're going to check in on the second release, the offensive and defensive linemen on the top 50 all-time players list the Seahawks have been getting your votes for almost a year. I'm going to react to those blind tonight, so we'll go through those together. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do it live tonight, get some of your reactions. Did anyone get snubbed this time? Anyone get left out? Or maybe anyone surprise you by being included? That's what we're going to get into on this edition of Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
So that's fun. I think my mic might have been muted during that open. I said some good stuff, you guys. So good. I'll have to go in, maybe edit it, maybe voiceover, do some voiceover. I hope it doesn't come off like a bad karate movie. Anyway, just setting the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight. Going to check in on the second day of OTAs, second day that media was allowed on the field and got to watch. So we'll check in on what some of them are saying about what they're seeing and also what some of the players are seeing these first couple of days as we are smack dab in the middle of overreaction season during this part of the offseason for certain in a way that I've never seen it before. I mean, we're taking stats now and saying things about quarterbacks being historically good because they completed 14 out of 17 in a skeleton session. What are we doing, Minnesota Vikings fans? That was a direct reference. And then day 2 of the Seahawks releasing parts of their top 50 all-time players list. Today, the offensive and defensive linemen. Unlike yesterday, we're going to react to that live and blind. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do this live. So if I wasn't muted, well, then you just heard it all again, but I think I was. Welcome to the show, and that music you heard early on was again, an oldie but a goodie, Legion of Boom from my old buddy Stephen Douglas and his band. Before we get into any of that, if you would, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it's the best way to support the channel. Lets the YouTube algorithm know that somebody likes it, and so they will push it out to more people in the hopes that they do as well. All the other ways that you can help contribute to supporting my venture as a full-time content creator are linked down below. And also, the launch of the new merchandise store. You will see it. I think it's all set up. It was earlier today, where underneath this video, you should be able to see the storefront. If not, above the video, you should be able to see a link to the store up there. There's also one down in the description if you want to check it out. Lots of cool stuff. I think I've priced it pretty aggressively in today's economy and what hats and shirts and coffee cups and things like that cost. So enjoy. Already got a couple of things shipped out. Martin Todd Smith, loyal listener and viewer and Twitter follower, the very first person to buy a piece of merchandise. Thanks for doing that. Got a couple of shirts and hats headed out soon. So stay tuned for that. And as time goes on, I'll run promotions on those. We'll have sales and things of that nature. Maybe do some giveaways as well once we get into the season. Anyway, let's get into this. Just took some notes just kind of from everything that was happening there at training camp. Of course, yeah, no, I'm not there. I'm on the East Coast at the moment. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully I'll be there this time a year from now, and certainly when training camp begins. Anyway, just kind of collected some things that are being said about the Seahawks. And I want to start right at the top because everybody reported on this. The big storyline that's got a lot of people's attention yesterday is that Sam Darnold threw some interceptions in practice, right? He also threw some touchdown passes and did some good things too. But I think it's complete overreaction. Anyone that reads too much into that or bows their head or shakes their head or rolls their eyes like, what did we do? Timeout. I'll get to that. Hopefully tie it all in together here at the end. First of all, John Boyle, the official reporter for Seahawks.com, who works in the building there, had a great piece, kind of wrapping up week 1, but heading into week 2 as well. And I thought he had some great quotes there, and in particular from the defensive side. And this is something that we've been talking about here on the show for quite a while now, just the continuity on that side of the ball. You can make the case depending on, sometimes they started different edge players last year. Draymond Jones was often a starter, but sometimes it was Mafe or Hall. And certainly Nwosu when he was healthy. So, I have been saying, and this is not inaccurate, that the Seahawks return all 11 starters on defense, plus 2 or 3 other players. I think it's 14 players that started at least a game for the team last year. That has to be unusual when you look around the league. I can't imagine there's another team out there, as much as rosters get churned and turned over with free agency and trades, what they are today, that can say they have all 11 starters back on defense. But that kind of continuity is something to get excited about. And I've been making the case for quite a while now that's it's especially important given all the changes on offense for the Seahawks this year. It's one of the reasons I like some of the things about how the schedule kind of lays out at the beginning. And we know that after the bye week last week, in most major categories, the Seahawks defense was top 5 in the league. And so there's reason to believe that heading into the season that they can count on starting off where they left off last year and maybe even taking another step. When you hear things like this is Jaron Reed and a direct quote from him on what he's seen from the defense so far. Man, he said this yesterday. Man, it's been a great week. Overall, I think this is one of the best first weeks we've had as a team in the last few years I've been here. The intensity is there. The communication is there. The emphasis that the coaches are putting on the players have been showing on the field. Okay. And then you add to that, flip over to the other side of the ball, right? This is a quote from Jackson Smith and Jigba on the offense. We're making progress, but we know there's still a lot of work to do. It's being the first week. We feel good. There's good energy out there. So it's just taking what we did this week and seeing how we can get better. The narrative and the language you're hearing from the offensive players is about one step at a time, baby steps, doing the install, soaking it all in, learning a new scheme, getting to where you don't have to think about it anymore. You can just react to it. Now, there have been some quotes over the last couple of days about how, in fact, Devin Witherspoon talked about this, how Sam Darnold just seems totally tied in and with the playbook and really locked in. It's a scheme that's very, very similar to what he's run in the past, and so you should expect that, right? But this is the kind of language we heard from this defense a year ago, right? It's a big playbook, it's a lot to absorb, and even though he simplifies things into like single word terms, right? We heard Garrett Greenlee talk about that again on the show last week. So much has to be learned and committed to memory and muscle memory in order to get to that point where you can just react to a one-word cue and be able to play full speed, that it's taken some time. And there was some time there, and there was some language from Mike McDonald last year that he had to scale some of that back, simplify things. We've heard from those that have watched his defenses over the years that they didn't see as much of the simulated pressure stuff last year, and they didn't blitz as much. And he's on the record this offseason as saying, I want to do more of that. Well, the things you're hearing out of these defensive players would lead you to believe that they're ready for that and they feel comfortable doing that. Flip back over to the side of the ball. Read again, talking about the offense, right? If you're concerned about that. I thought this is a really cool quote. You can sense the physicality on the offensive line. They come off the ball low and hard. We've got some good guys on there. I think that goes to the coaching and the offensive coordinator we brought in. I think they're cooking up something really good. Now, obviously, they're not in pads. They can't go full contact. He was asked a follow-up question. He just kind of leaned into it, saying that you can sense by their mentality and their approach that this offensive line is going to be more physical this year and that they have a different mindset when it comes to that, right? little bit more of the same from Greg Bell. Talked about the up and down day for Darnold, right? Drew Lock apparently looked really, really sharp in the first open practice yesterday. And then Jalen Milroe, we've heard kind of as expected, made some nice throws, airmailed a few, inconsistent. That's the knock on him. That's the thing that needs to be developed. Ran with the third team the whole time. He's a project. He's a project. I know there's a lot made today out of the fact that Mike McDonald went on a radio show on Seattle Sports 710, and they asked him if there's any chance outside of injury that Sam Darnold isn't the starting quarterback for this team, that there's any kind of a competition. And Mike McDonald said, "Oh, that's a crazy question. Sam's our starter." And some people on Twitter pushed back on that. It's not a crazy question. You should expect this, that. It's and some people have even gone so far as to criticize the question being asked, which is ridiculous. Any good reporter, any good journalist, any good analyst with a nose for the game and a head for the game, to me, the standard for whether a question should be asked is very, very simple. Are you curious about something? Let's go Ted Lasso on this, right? Be curious. If you're curious about something, it should be asked. If you think a viewer or listener is curious about something, it should be asked, period. There are no dumb questions as long as there is some curiosity attached to it. But there was, I guess, Milroe's highlight of the day. He did connect with Elijah Arroyo, second-round pick out of Miami, the tight end, for a pretty touchdown on a fade route. Torrey Horton back practicing. He did not participate in anything up until this week. He's only doing drills and individual stuff, but he is running routes. You've seen some of the video out there. He looks healthy. He looks explosive. He's cutting. They're just taking their time. Seahawks are typically this time of year very cautious with players coming off of injury, as they should be. Devin Witherspoon talking about how much it helps the defensive backs going up against JSN and Cooper Kupp every day in practice. I thought that was really cool. And then Jaron Reed saying that continuity and everybody being familiar with each other, knowing the playbook, that it allows them to play fast. And I'm kind of jumping ahead. Michael Sean Dugar in his write-up after day one really focused on that. Some of the other parts of what Reed had to say, but said, mentioned the continuity. Adam Dirty, also the defensive coordinator, raving about how much further ahead they are on defense, how much more they can throw at them. And then Reed saying that now we can just go out on the field and play fast. And so, McDonald saying he does want to blitz more. He wants to be more exotic and more creative. That's one of the reasons that I picked the Seahawks to win week 1 against the 49ers. The matchup in that game is going to be an offense for the 49ers, and even though they've suffered some losses, Deebo Samuel being notable among them, Brandon Ayuk maybe not being 100% if he can go week 1 at all. Ricky Pearsall's even coming off an injury, so they have some questions there. Some questions coming out of their OTAs from people that cover the team about Christian McCaffrey, where he might be physically at this point in his career, approaching 30. But they have questions on the defensive side of the ball, but the offense should be able to get off to a pretty fast start. And the Seahawks defense should be able to get off to a pretty fast start. So that's why I think it gives them a chance while that offense is developing and kind of getting started. And so that's one of the reasons I picked that week 1. I think the things they're saying about how much more they understand this defense. And when you can just react instead of think, on offense too, but mostly on defense, it just makes it all that much better, especially when you have a defense it's got a couple of key veterans, but it's full of young guys with a ton of upside that haven't been paid yet. A lot of guys on rookie contracts on that side of the ball. That's going to be a hungry, hungry defense, I think, as we get close to the season. Bob Condotta talked about Darnold holding on to the ball. Little teaser. Sometime in the next couple of days, I know I've been promising this to you. It's going to show up for members and on Patreon first. Check out the new Patreon page if you would, and sign up over there. But exclusive access early on for a video that I'm doing. I've put together clips of every single red zone touchdown and interception that Sam Darnold threw last year for the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to take a look at that, kind of break that down together. His time to throw last year was over 3 seconds. It was at the bottom of the league. The 3 guys below him, and off the top of my head now, but I looked this up just the other day, are elite quarterbacks. So time to throw isn't everything. And the guys below him, in fact, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts were 2 of the 3. I can't remember the third one now. But sometimes time to throw is because those guys manipulate the pocket. They move around. They extend plays also. But little spoiler alert, when you see the red zone stuff, not an issue. Not an issue. In fact, one of the things that made him so good in the red zone last year, 24 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, I believe it was, among the best in the league, is very, very quick, very decisive, gets the ball out quick. Middle of the field, he tends to hold the ball a little bit, trying to make something happen. Needs to get quicker there, be more willing to throw the ball away. That can come with experience. Let's hope he fixes that. But don't overreact to these things, because what did we just talk about? We talked about a very, very experienced defense, a very talented defense, a very young defense, a very hungry defense flying around. They know their responsibilities. They know where they're supposed to be. They're going to be ahead of the offense. It's like in baseball and spring training every year, right? The pitchers are always ahead to start the year. It takes the bats a while to warm up. So you can't overreact to someone going over their first 12 in spring training. Don't overreact to a quarterback throwing some picks in 7-on-7 against a defense that could very well be one of the best in the league this year. And that's another thing that came up in Michael Sean Dugar's piece. Again, it was Jaron Reed, man. He was on it yesterday. He was asked, like, hey, do you guys feel like you could, you were top 5 from the bye week on? Do you feel like you can be a top 5 defense again? He said, our goal is to be number one in every category, like the Baltimore Ravens were in 2023 with Mike McDonald. One of the reasons he got this job, right? Another thing Witherspoon said in that Dugar piece, because of the familiarity and how comfortable they are with it, he says, we can rotate, we can line up anywhere, and we can play any coverage with those guys. That's going to be fun to watch, right? Bob Condotta really talked about the offensive line as much as anyone who was there, and the what we saw from the lineups. And this is as expected. This is the starting lineup that I have been anticipating and assuming, and we've talked about it here on the show. Charles Cross, Gray Zabel, Olu Oluwatimi, Christian Haynes at right guard, Abraham Lucas at right tackle. Anthony Bradford was getting some first-team reps with Haynes. And then the second team, I thought this is interesting. Michael Jarrell at left tackle, Satawa Lamea at left guard, Jalen Sundell at center, Anthony Bradford at right guard, and then Josh Jones at right tackle. Now, a couple of things of note here. Jones has been working at left and right tackle. We expected that. It's one of the reasons he was signed, to kind of fill that role that George Fant was supposed to fill last year, that we wanted Stone Forsythe to become. It never did. Bradford is clearly a guy they're still high on. John Schneider made a point this offseason of talking about how don't dismiss him as not a scheme fit, because even for his size, he tested at an elite level for his size. He can move. And Schneider specifically pointed out that he likes how he gets to the second level. Still in that competition. Sundell, we know about that, he may push Oluwatimi this training camp. Lamea played quite a bit of left guard during the preseason last year and practiced at both and ended up being the starter down the stretch at right guard. Michael Jarrell at left tackle fascinates me. I have said on the show that I thought it was going to be a push. In fact, I don't think I had him on my initial 53-man projection because I didn't think he could play left tackle. Like, coming from a small school, Division II, he played right tackle. You would think a guy drafted in the NFL playing for a small school, he would play left tackle as a default. He didn't. He played right tackle. Now, his athletic upside would suggest he can play left tackle. I just thought with the jump from Division II to the NFL being what it is, that just right tackle would kind of be where he had to stay until he really, really got his technique and really learned how to play with the big boys. If he can play left tackle and show that he can play it well, play both sides, probably not going to affect Josh Jones and his ability to make the roster, but certainly would have an impact on someone like Mason Richmond, who played left tackle for 4 years at Iowa. They're playing him on the right side now also. They want to try him on both sides. Would make it really, really tough for him to make the team. But I think that makes all the sense in the world. And then I'll tell you, one of the storylines so far of camp has to be, have you seen the pictures and the video of Abe Lucas? Like, we saw all the workout stuff this offseason, how strong he is, not held back at all, 100% healthy, no pain, no inhibition, no knee brace. He looks as fit and ripped as he ever has. And he should, if he's feeling good, after basically losing 2 full years to a knee injury, right? The hunger to get back and play well has to be significant for any professional athlete, but especially one in the last year of his deal who's trying to make some money. So really, really positive sign that no one's even talking about Abe Lucas, and they're not having to manage his practice reps or hold him out or rest him or give him veteran rest days or anything like that. That's really, really positive stuff. And then Dave Wyman talked on the show yesterday about how excited he is about this scheme, the wide zone running scheme, because of, he's a former linebacker, played in the league for 10 years, how much stress it places on the linebackers in the second level to stay with their gap assignments, and how excited he is to see how that works. Also, just a programming note on Friday, Corbin Smith is there. He's going to be he's been at the first 2. He'll be there tomorrow as well. So he's going to witness all 3 practices, and then he flies back home. We're going to catch up on Friday, so tune in for that. Don't know yet. Depends on the timing, whether we'll go live with it or record it. But if we can go live with it, we will, so that we can get your questions. But Corbin will hop on again and give us his take on what he saw in person for those 3 days. All right, before I get to some of your questions and comments, let's do this first. Let's kind of catch up on some of this stuff. Let me turn this on too. This new feature where you can see the comments down in the corner there. And just see what we got and kind of go through this before we hop into, we always get our good amount of Go Hawks. I like that. I like it. Hank says I can finally watch Mariner games because I'm not conflicting with it. That's nice. Did that for you. Really? Oh, good. Hoopcray says my mic wasn't muted. Cool. It just showed down in StreamYard that it was. So cool. Well, then I'm sorry for being redundant there. Okay, whatever. Hey, I like this. Steve Haller says, liked and subscribed for full transparency. I'm a Cards fan. As we get closer to training camp, we'll do some full previews with content creators that cover the other team. Walter Mitchell has become a good resource for that. Love his insight and his experience and his history with the team. So we'll definitely have him on talking about the Cards. Looks like the comments showing it is in the beta stage. It's supposed to be down here in the corner. Not working tonight. So stay tuned for that. Also, Rob Stats Guerrera and I, who does such a great job for the Gold Standard Network covering the 49ers, we are in talks to potentially do a podcast and a YouTube show specifically focused on the division as a whole. That's all I'm going to say. Stay tuned for that. James says, I've never been to the East Coast. Technically, we're not on the coast. I'm in West Virginia, but I could be on the East Coast in 3.5 hours. One of the things I love about being in this part of the country that's so weird to me after, spending most of my life in Seattle, or at least around Seattle, is how spread out everything is there and how it isn't here. Like, it seems like everywhere that I want to go, or at least so many places, are a 4-hour drive. Like, if it was fall, I could go watch a Ohio State game in 4 hours. I could go to Cincinnati. We've talked about maybe making a baseball trip. Unfortunately, it doesn't match up over the next couple months with the Seahawks or the Mariners, but I could go watch a Reds game or a Pirates game in 4 hours. Could go watch Paul Skeens pitch for the Pirates. Could go to Louisville. Could go to, there's so many cool places. College basketball, my goodness, how easy it would be to just go see a bunch of games. So, yeah, really, really cool. Steve says PFF has the Seahawks roster at 22. That's crazy, disrespectful. Look, we've talked about it. I rack my head trying to figure out why so many people are down on the Seahawks. I get it. There's been a lot of changes on offense, but the 49ers have swapped out an entirely new front seven. They lose Hufanga and Greenlaw and their entire defensive line. All they bring back is Bosa and obviously Fred Warner. They're going to play a rookie at the other inside linebacker spot. Rookies all across the front line. Bryce Huff is nothing. And yet they're supposed to put it all back together again. They're going to be fixed. They're going to win 10 games and challenge the Rams for the division title. talk about changes. I don't get it. I really don't. Because here's the thing. And I've been toying with some alternate reality or kind of alternate timeline ideas for a show in the next couple of weeks. Like, what if Cooper Kupp had stayed with the Rams, you know what the storylines would be coming out of OTAs? It would be how he's ready for a resurgent year, a comeback year. He looks healthier than ever, best shape of his life, no signs of his former injuries. Look for a big comeback year out of Cooper Kupp. But he comes here and it's, I don't know, the injuries. I don't know if he's as good as DK Metcalf. And yet, what have we heard for the last 4 years? DK's limited. He can't do this. He can't do that. Right? The quarterback thing. Geno Smith was here. A lot of the national analysts, many of them liked him and believed in him, but a lot of the narrative from kind of, mid-range analysts and content creators that cover the league as a whole was like, Geno's not good enough. They're not going to go anywhere with Geno, but now he goes to the Raiders and oh my goodness, they might do something. Sam Darnold had MVP votes last year. And there's story again this week. It came out again that like they wanted Sam Darnold back. They made him an offer. They really wanted him back. They were only willing to offer a 1-year deal, but they wanted him back. Kevin O'Connell wanted Sam Darnold back, and he got MVP votes last year. But now it's like, I don't know. How do they expect to compete with him? It's just weird. The narrative is weird. It really, really is. Hey, Misfit, what's up? All right. Okay, let's get into this. And I queued this up. We're just going to go to, let's do a little screen share action here. And let's do this. Flip it over to this side. A little 2-monitor system here. And we're going to go over there. It was the offensive and defensive line. If you didn't see my reaction to the running backs and DBs yesterday, go check that out. But let's share the screen and we'll go over here. So reacting to this blind, have not had a chance to look at this yet. But this is the offensive line, right? And we'll just scroll down. They're kind of in no particular order. Or I think they're alphabetical is what I think I figured out because it was weird yesterday. Edwin Bailey. One of the best guards, obviously, ever to play. It was interesting last offseason. Some of you may have seen this. I can't remember now if it was on my show. I think it was on his show. I think it was on Hawks Zone Rundown with Bryce and Ryan, where we did an all-time team. We also did an all-underrated team. But the hardest part about doing an all-time team was picking the right side of the line. They just haven't had good right guards or right tackles that have stuck around for very long in their history. But Edwin Bailey, 81 to 91. Started 120 games, started right away as a rookie, played in those on those Chuck Knox teams, ground Chuck, ran the football, really, really physical. He was part of that first playoff team that reached the AFC Championship game. Some of you younger fans don't remember we used to be in the AFC. And quick little story. So they played the Raiders, who at the time I think were the LA Raiders in the AFC Championship game. Played them on the road after beating Miami to get there, lost. And it was during that season that Dave Craig really, the season before he took over for Jim Zorn, when Zorn hurt his ankle, and took the job and ran with it, and then had the huge year in 1983 or maybe it was 83 where Zorn got hurt and Craig took over, and then 84 he had the big year because Warner got hurt and they had to throw the football all over the place. Anyway, we knew that was going to be Jim Zorn's last game as a Seahawk, and he was he was my favorite player. And I think I had, at different times, I had 3 autographed pictures from him. Of course, I was so terrible at taking care of my belongings over the years, I've lost them all. But a teammate and I went and welcomed them to the airport when they came home from that game. The airport was packed, thousands of people, right? And I saw Jim Zorn kind of sneaking off down a back hallway with his wife, Joy, and some of his closest friends or associates or whatever. And I was 18 years old and pumped up on adrenaline, and I ran down there. I wouldn't do this now because I respect these guys' privacy so much, but I ran down there. I was like, Mr. Zorn, and I just wanted to tell him, thank you for everything you've done in Seattle. I'm a huge fan. I wish you all the luck wherever you go, And he stopped in his tracks, and he was like, he shut everything out that was going on in his head. And for whatever it was, if it was 30 seconds or if it was 3 minutes, He looked me dead in the eye and paid all that was important to him in that moment is listening to everything I said. He was really appreciative, and I got to shake his hand. That was really, really cool. But just that's one of the reminders I have that, geez, we used to play in the AFC. It's so weird. Chris Gray. This one I like, just right off the top, first blush, because I always felt like he was definitely the most underrated member of that line, right? You went Jones and Hutchinson and Tobeck and Gray and Locklear, but Gray was just that guy that he wasn't a great athlete. He wasn't the biggest, but he just started 145 games, played 10 years with the Seahawks and held that spot down. Just solid play. I don't know if he ever made a Pro Bowl, but started 121 consecutive games, which was a franchise record when he retired. Russell Wilson beat it later. Steve Hutchinson obviously only played 5 years in Seattle. And then Tim Ruskell screwed the pooch on trying to give him the transition tag instead of the franchise tag to save, like, I can't remember what it was. Wasn't it like less than $1 million that they saved by doing that? Ended up losing him because the rules were different there. You could put those poison pills in offer sheets, and the Vikings did some stupid shit, and we lost Steve Hutchinson. He wanted to stay. He was looking at property, wanted to build a new house. Just a dominant player. Maybe his legacy, though, will remain in Seattle because he was instrumental now as an advisor on that scouting staff, instrumental in identifying Gray Zabel, scouting him. Zabel's going to wear his number. First guard that the Seahawks selected in the first round since Hutchinson in 2001. Just a phenomenal player and a worthy Hall of Famer. Walter Jones, nothing needs to be said. One of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. This is the most amazing stat. 5,703 pass attempts in his career. He allowed only 23 sacks and was only called for holding 9 times. Just an unbelievable player. Brian Millard, 1984 to 1991, started his career in the USFL. Man, I wish we still had a legitimate developmental league where you could have stories like this again. He's a Ring of Honor member. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. I'm doing this for the first time. Started 99 of his 121 career games. Really durable. He was one of the blockers on that line. This is where I misread it, that Kurt Warner rushed for 1,481 yards his first season as a starter. Just a really outstanding, consistent player. But again, the Seahawks history on the offensive line, like Chris Gray and Brian Millard made this all-time team, not because they were great players, not because they were all pros or Pro Bowlers, just because they were dependable and reliable for a number of years. He was named to the Seahawks 35th anniversary team in 2010. Robbie Tobeck, go Cougs. Like, the Seahawks have a history of undersized centers really playing well. I'm glad Tobeck made this team. I've been shocked if he didn't sign as a free agent. I think he spent, his first 6 years in Atlanta. And he became the starter and held that down for 93 consecutive games. That is so hard in the NFL today as it was back then, to play interior offensive line. Guys coming at your feet, like having to cut, just unbelievable. Plus, he was another one of those guys that like had to really work hard to be 300 pounds. Look at him now. Like, he's a fit, I don't know what he is, 220, 225. He's out fishing all the time. He doesn't look like a guy that played center in the NFL. Two-time team captain. He did make the Pro Bowl in 2005 during Sean Alexander's MVP season. Then the final offensive lineman on this list, I'm a little bit surprised by this. Max Unger, 2009, 2014. Played guard his first year. And I remember his rookie year. Gosh darn it. Who was the former coach of the Baltimore Ravens before Harbaugh? Won a Super Bowl with him. He did color for a while for Fox. But I remember him talking about Unger in a game that he was doing. And he said he's playing well as a rookie at guard, but if they ever have the opportunity to move him to center, I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler and be in this league for a long time. And he was right. He was first team All-Pro in 2012 when the Seahawks led the league in rushing yards, made 2 Pro Bowls in those couple of years. It really, some people like to think the Seahawks are a little bit cursed when it comes to the offensive line. Well, if they are, then it's the Max Unger curse, right? He was included in that trade to bring Jimmy Graham over, and that was just kind of the start of an era where the Seahawks got a little bit too enamored with position players, skill position players, and didn't place enough emphasis on the offensive line. Like, imagine how things might have been different if Max Unger had stuck around at center, because I think it was, I think ever since then, I think 10, 11 years later, there's been a different starting center every single opening week. Just unbelievable. All right, now let's go and look at the defensive linemen and which ones were voted to the top 50. And again, so here's some of the criteria. And there's a little bit of confusion, and I finally figured it out because I was confused. The voting process took place toward the end of the 2024 season. I remember voting. I wish I would have saved my tally so I remembered who I voted for. But there were 160 players eligible. It wasn't just all players. They had to meet the following criteria: started at least 45 games, voted to an All-Pro or NFL Pro Bowl team roster, won the Seahawks Man of the Year or the Steve Largent Award, currently leads a career major statistical category, or and part of an iconic moment in Seahawks history. What's confusing about that, and they need to change this verbiage, gosh darn it, I need to start a movement. If you had to meet all of those qualifications, there would only be like 5 guys. You have to at least meet one of those. Anyway, here's the defensive lineman. And this gets tricky. I'm already going to anticipate there might be some questions on this one because of different schemes over the years. 4-3-3-4. Is a guy a defensive end, thereby being a defensive lineman, or is he an outside linebacker, right? So Cliff Averill, defensive end, 2013 to 2017. It says a lot about how good he was, that he only played 4 years in Seattle, had to retire early because of an injury, and yet he's on the top 50 players of all time list. At a position where the Seahawks have had really, really good players, I expect there to be a lot of defensive ends on this list. I mean, he was outstanding. 5 years in Seattle, 34 and a half sacks, 14 forced fumbles, 88 quarterback hits. Made the Pro Bowl in 2016, had 11 and a half sacks and 5 forced fumbles. One of the greatest free agent signings in John Schneider's career, coming off a big year in Detroit, played on that 0-16 team, and the market just wasn't there for him. And that was the year that they signed, I think they signed Averill and Bennett the same day, didn't they? To 1-year deals. Weren't they 1-year deals? They were short-term deals for not a lot of money. It was the kind of thing, it was like when they got Zach Miller. They just didn't expect him to still be on the market after the first or second wave of free agency. They were able to get him in a bargain. Just an unbelievable offseason. And I still say this. You talk about Super Bowl 49, and we all want to talk about the play from the 1-yard line. If Cliff Averill doesn't get hurt early in the second half, I think we win that game. He was absolutely, I'd have to go back and look at the pressure numbers, but I felt like he was impacting the pocket on every single play and creating stress for Tom Brady. If he doesn't get hurt in that game, I think we win it. Because I think when we get that 10-point lead, I think they just keep pushing. Michael Bennett, what can you say about Michael Bennett? Kind of a crazy character. Sometimes he was a headache and a pain in the neck and holding out, not wanting to practice or whatever. But he's a great story too, because he was originally an undrafted free agent. The Seahawks end up releasing him. He goes to Tampa Bay for a couple of years. Same thing. I think he thought he was going to have more of a market in free agency. And then there he was, signed the same day as Cliff Averill. Just an unbelievable day. How about this for an episode idea? I've really been thinking hard about what to do the next 6 weeks when, there isn't as much news, right? Gotta do things to come up with compelling content without rehashing the same ideas over and over again. And it struck me the other day, why not tell more stories, right? And this would be a good example of that. You just have an episode where we just tell the story of the day the Seahawks signed Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. 39 sacks in his career, 3-time Pro Bowler, 69 tackles for loss, 118 quarterback hits, 7 forced fumbles. He was so quick off the ball, and he could get so low, and he was so explosive. He was so much fun to watch. Jeff Bryant, and Jacob Green right below him. Those guys played together for much of their career, and what a bookend duo they were. Bryant, 82 to 93. He was a first-round pick. Started 167 games. Ranks third in Seahawks history with 63 sacks. Finished his career top 10 in tackles, forced fumbles and fumble recoveries, blocked field goals, and blocked extra points. Just a great, great player. And then Jacob Green, of course, 1980 to 1991. He was a 10th overall pick in 1980, played 12 seasons, Ring of Honor member, franchise leader in sacks, 115 and a half, two-time Pro Bowl selection, started 176 of 178 games. Just unbelievable player, and so quick off the ball. Again, explosive, had those long arms, could really bend around the edge. One of only 5 players in team history with 4 sacks in a game, and his 718 tackles overall ranks 7th. Cortez Kennedy, what more can you say? Talked about in the Mount Rushmore episode, one of the greatest defensive linemen, I think, interior defensive lineman in NFL history. Played on a lot of bad teams, and so I think he gets lost in some discussion, and only played 10 years because I think the game, he just had to play so hard. He was a little undersized in some ways, and I think the game just kind of wore him down. But that 1991 season, or 1992 season, team was 2-14, and their offense averaged 8 points a game. And he was so dominant that he won Defensive Player of the Year. He had 14 sacks last year as a nose tackle, basically. Interior defensive lineman. He's a guy, Byron Murphy should watch some Cortez Kennedy tape. That would be pretty amazing. Also, just a great guy. Won the team Steve Largent Award in 1996. Pro Football Hall of Famer in 2012. Passed away in 2017. Rest in peace. Big Tez. Just a big, jolly dude. He was so much fun to watch. Brandon Mebane, love seeing his name on here. I think he's one of the underrated players in Seahawks history. 3rd round pick in 2007, played until 2015. Began under Mike Holmgren, but became a key part of those Pete Carroll defenses. The belly roll sack celebration was a big deal for him. Played in 16 games in 5 of his first 7 seasons, really durable. Started 125 games in his 9 years here. Just a really stout, consistent presence that you could count on in the middle of that line. Joe Nash, 1982 to 1996, known infamously for his fake injuries in the Cincinnati playoff game that caused the league to change the rule about fake injuries so that you could get free timeouts, basically. But you talk about durable, just unbelievable. It just seemed like he was there forever. Still holds the franchise record for most career games played with 218 as a nose tackle, and an undersized one is at that. First team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in 1984 when the team won 12 games for the first time in history. Had 7 sacks that season. Had 9 in 1985. I mean, that's 16 sacks over a 2-year period for a nose tackle. That's unbelievable. You can't talk about the best defensive lineman in Seahawks history without talking about Joe Nash. And then Michael Sinclair, 6th round pick, real success story at the time as a late round draft pick. Played 11 years in Seattle. Was kind of overshadowed at times by some other bigger names and personalities on defense, but 3-time Pro Bowler, 2nd in franchise history with 73 and a half sacks. In 98, he set what at the time was a franchise record with 16 and a half sacks that led the league. Had at least 12 sacks for 3 consecutive seasons from 96 to 98. Made the Pro Bowl each of those years. Unbelievable. Anyone missing there? Now, I will say this, like Chris Clemens comes to mind, but I suspect that they view him as an outside linebacker. And I think when we see tomorrow's the linebackers and specialists, I suspect we'll see Chris Clemens on there. And there might be some other guys. It does kind of point out that like that's a very heavy defensive end list, right? Like there just haven't been that many, a lot of role players on the interior. Although, a guy like Bennett kind of played inside and out. I don't know that there are any misses there. Offensive line, the one name that came to mind was Blair Bush. And I think he was a starting center on my all underrated team last year. He was the opening day starter for 6 straight seasons at center from 83 to 88, playing on some really good teams. That first playoff team, those Chuck Knox years when they ran the football so well and had some really explosive offenses, started 78 games, but he never made a Pro Bowl. And maybe that was it. But he was a local guy, he's a UW guy. But he spent his first 5 seasons in Cincinnati, and then he spent like 6 or 7 years after he was in Seattle elsewhere, played 17 years in the league as a guy who, to this day, he's still listed at 6'3", 268. Unbelievable to think of. So that's one. Frank Clark, if they count him as a defensive end, which I think they would, like, should he have been on that list? Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Anything that they missed, really? Yeah. We can talk about the day we almost lost the Seahawks. I was in North Dakota when that happened. So I was working at KFYR TV as a sports director up there, the NBC station. And so I remember I always had there was a little monitor right by my desk that was just always showing what our station was playing at the time. And so always had Days of Our Lives, like playing in the background, right? But I remember that day walking in and the pictures that we've seen of the trucks, the semi-trucks, and thinking, like, there was a moment there. It didn't last very long. It was pretty quick that the league came in and there was an injunction and they stopped him, and then he agreed to put the team up for sale, and then Paul Allen obviously swooped in, and the rest is history. But I just remember thinking there was a moment there where I thought, are we going to lose the freaking Seahawks? Are they going to move? Like, that can't happen. Can that just happen? It was a really, really scary couple of moments there for a minute. But yeah, unbelievable. Another one that I thought of, though, is like, I don't know if y'all know Derek Hall's story, right? But it's unbelievable. And I think we're going to talk about potential breakout players here later this week. And I'll talk about some of the guests I have coming up on this week. It's going to be a busy week, and I'm really excited about it, and you should be too, and I hope you'll be here for it. But we'll talk about breakout players. I think Derek Hall could potentially have a big, big year. That edge group is really fascinating to me. There's so much on the line with those guys, right? Mafe in the last year of his deal, Nwosu trying to prove he's healthy and also wanting to get another contract. Lawrence wanting to prove that the one injury-filled season he had last year was a fluke and that he can still play. And then, of course, Hall trying to take the next step. But his backstory is unbelievable. And if I had known it, I've said this before, but if I had known it, I would have mocked him to the Seahawks in every single mock draft that I did leading up to that draft, whereas I never did because I just thought there were other edge players in that class that I liked better. I just never got around to diving real deep into who he was. Watched a little bit of his tape, liked it, but just didn't think it was dynamic really. But yeah, certainly changed my mind now. I appreciate this. Thank you very much. I assume you're talking about my show. I mean, maybe you're talking about someone else's show. I don't know. Okay. It's setting the edge. I'm not going to put your comment up just because I want to be respectful. I have a ton of respect for that creator and what he and his team does. But it's cool that you notice that. I appreciate that. I check in. I check in on the competition. I am really, really proud of the fact that pretty consistently, I think my videos get as many, if not more views than some of the other major channels out there that have twice as many subscribers as I do. And I think that says a lot about you guys. My goal when I started this channel was to do it the right way and not the fast or the quick way, by building the right audience. And what I mean by that is I just wanted to be genuine and true to who I was and just be honest and try to be objective, but also let my passion show. And not fall into some of the traps that some creators do with clickbait and trying to be shocking and just grab your attention, but then having the content not deliver on that promise. And then just using my journalistic background and the way I approach things and the way I think. And it has absolutely worked, because even though it's been a little slower at times, sometimes that subscriber number just seems to be stuck and it can't move. And then other times I'll pick up 500 in a month. It's because, and I just very, very rarely have to deal with any trolls or any, as I like to call it, douchebaggery. I really, really love you guys and the group that we've built here together. So really, really cool. Appreciate that. And that person you're talking about, again, is somebody that I really respect. And he's been on the show and he'll be on the show again. And I look forward to that. Now, let's talk about that as we wrap things up. The rest of this week. Tomorrow, Casey McLean from the Poor Sports Podcast. We're going to get together. It's a cool idea I had the other day because I've been watching a lot of Mariners baseball. We're going to compare the Mariners and Seahawks over the next 36 months, 3 years, and ask the question of who has the better future. And if you think it's a slam dunk, I think you're wrong. I think there's a case to be made for both franchises, talent-wise, and what's coming down the pike, having really, really bright futures. And so we'll get to compare that a little bit, talk to that. Casey's hilarious. He's awesome. He also does stand-up comedy. I'll make him tell a joke. And then Thursday, old friend and former Field Goals co-host Dana O'Gorman's going to come on. First time we've had a chance to talk since the draft. That's going to be a live show, so we'll get some of his thoughts, her thoughts on the defense especially, and what she looks for from them, because she loves that defense, right? So we'll talk about that. And then also the next couple of days, I'll be reacting tomorrow to the linebackers and specialists list. That'll be fun. The Seahawks have an interesting kicker history and punter history, so that'll be kind of fun to shake that out. And then Thursday, I'll be reacting to the skill position in the quarterbacks, of course. That'll be a lot of fun. Talk to Dana that night. And then Corbin, as I said, will be joining me on Friday. That show will air Friday, may be live, so stay tuned for that. And then Max Brown, get to catch up with him again. It'll be the third time he's been on the show. And it's funny, he did a video the other day really breaking down how he thought Jalen Milroe could best be used in packages as a rookie. But I also want to pick his brain about what he sees as far as Milroe's just total game and his development and the areas he needs to work on. But also, Max is a former teammate of Sam Darnold, and they played together at USC. And it's one of the reasons Max had to transfer to Pittsburgh is Sam really grabbed that position down there. So they know each other well, and he got to see him even in that situation. And so I'll get some really cool thoughts from him as a guy who knows him of what he expects from Sam Darnold this year. So that'll be fun to talk to Max. And what was interesting is when I reached out to him, he emailed me right back and said, "Hey, I was just thinking about you. I was going to give you a heads up that I just did this video on Jalen Milroe, but I beat him to it." So we're going to talk on Friday, but that show will most likely air Saturday. And then I still haven't got this scheduled yet, but Jeff Simmons of Real Hawk Talk, always love his insight, and his honesty is a big thing that I really appreciate. Sometimes brutally honest. But we're going to talk about potential breakout players on this roster and guys that could take the next step and maybe get to blue chip status. He'll be joining me later this week. That'll either air Sunday or I might hold it over until Monday. That's all coming up. Busy week. Best way to stay informed on all of it. Obviously, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. But if you hit that bell, you'll get notifications whenever I go live. You don't get anything else. You don't get spammed or anything else. You'll just get notified whenever I go live or post a new video. That's it. If you don't want to miss anything. So that's where that's at. Also, here, let me do this. No, StreamYard's just working. It's just being weird right now. I was going to put up the new Patreon page. But anyway, everything's linked down below. If you want to get over and check out Patreon, I am going to do that exclusive video on Sam Darnold, looking at all of his red zone production last year, every single one of his touchdown passes and interceptions. We'll kind of break that down together. That'll be available only to members here, paid members of this channel and Patreon for the first few days. And then check out the new online store, you guys. I've got some stuff coming, so I'll be able to show it off here. I think I did a pretty good cross-section. I really love the coffee cups. A couple of different types of t-shirts. One kind of a dry fit workout t-shirt. Another one more comfortable, some polos, a visor. Have fun with that. Again, I think I really tried to be aggressive in my pricing, made it attractive. Kind of, I know what hats cost out there and shirts and jerseys and everything else. And so just would love to be at a game next year and run into one of you and you're wearing one of the hats. That would be pretty damn cool. So, and if you want to even contribute to me as a full-time content creator even more directly, there's other different ways that are listed down below in the description too. So until tomorrow, And when Casey and I together will react to the Seahawks list, potentially if it's out by the time I talk to him. If not, you may get 2 pieces of content tomorrow. All right? I kind of liked doing it live like this and reacting to it a little bit more blind. I'm sorry if some of you have put in new comments. StreamYard's kind of frozen up. I think the picture's fine. My mouse is being weird. So love you guys. Thanks so much for watching the show. We'll be right back here tomorrow. Forever and always, go Hawks.